Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moment Unplugged podcast, a space of holistic growth, impactful and safe conversation, embracing every moment of our lives because we know the author. Cheers to sharing joy, peace, and love, and embracing your story. My name is Mandisa Singwane. Thank you for clicking play and tuning in today. I appreciate you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an episode of the Moments Unplugged podcast. We are on episode 2 of season 2. I believe I stand to be corrected, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. And we're back with another episode. This one, I'm here to also drag my hair through the ground or drag myself through the mud and the dirt because I'm calling myself out here, and I really hope a few people can relate, and I hope it speaks to you, for me and for you to do better, because I don't know if it's coming with this like year-end fatigue thing that we've all got going on or if it's just towards the end of the year type of thing that just starts to happen when we all just lose momentum, or if it's just a thing that just creeps in every now and again. I don't really know, but it's here now, and so we're going to address it while we're at it, okay? So thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I am so happy to have you here. Like I said, I'm dragging myself here, and I am stepping on my own neck and a few other necks. And so this requires a little bit more vulnerability from me and some honesty, because I'm also going through this, guys. We're also just gonna let's be kind. It's a safe space, right? We're gonna try and tread lightly on this one, but also be very honest and transparent. Like I said, vulnerability is not easy. In fact, it's hard. Okay, it's difficult. That's better English to say. It's tough, difficult. It is a mission and a half. And I said this to my best friend a few weeks ago. Vulnerability is not what we think it is. It's not, I'm just going to speak and everything is just going to flow from my mouth and I'm going to have verbal diarrhea and it's just going to be easy. No, it's not. It really isn't. But it's something we can all work on and get right eventually, I assume. And so anyways, this is my little story. While I'm recording this podcast, it is a Friday evening, 8:15 at night. Now, I've had the past week off. The last academic day I kind of had was a week ago this Friday. A week ago on a Friday, okay? At about 5:00. Yeah, that was my last academic commitment, right? And so from Friday a week ago, 7 days ago, to this Friday, I've kind of just moved on my own timetable and done what I need to do outside of academics, right? And so you probably wondering why would you leave it to the last minute? Because this podcast comes out on a Sunday morning, right? Guys, I actually also don't know. But anyway, so I actually started prepping and now recording this podcast in the span of an hour. I just finished prepping 20 minutes ago. And I prepared myself to record now. Okay. So lastminute.com at its peak. But what I'm really glad about in this entire process is the fact that I've honored the commitment to show up. Okay. I chose every excuse under the sun and I found every distraction possible this past week to do anything else but do the podcast. Guys, I don't want to lie to you. This was not easy. Sitting here and speaking is not something I thought I would do. It's not something I thought I'd be able to do. And in fact, let me tell you, I had already planned an excuse to give everyone that was going to ask me, where's the podcast episode for this week or whatever. I had it going. I knew what I was going to say. I had an answer. Okay, guys. I was ready for what was to come. But showing up was not one of them. Honoring my commitment was just not in the books. I didn't have it in me, but I'm here now. And that in itself is an achievement and a half. So that's the topic for today. Honoring your commitment. So, as you've already heard from my little story time in the beginning, I definitely almost didn't do that, okay? And I allowed myself not to want to do that because I just thought life was lifing and so I could allow it. But there's a problem with that entire methodology or train of thought. It is quite flawed. But anyways, we'll get into why I think so a bit later. I'm just going to introduce the topic and what it kind of means. So for me, simply put, honoring your commitments is it purely looks like showing up. As you've heard, I've used those two like phrases interchangeably. Honoring your commitments and showing up. To me, it sounds like the same thing. Obviously we can have the conversation. You are more than welcome to go into any of my social DMs and let's have the conversation. What you believe it is, if you disagree with what I'm saying. But like I said, to me, it sounds pretty much the same as showing up and doing what you said you would do, which also, now that I think of it, I didn't write it here, but it sounds a bit like integrity. You know, the doing what you said you would do even when nobody's watching? Sounds pretty similar, but I think what makes it different from integrity is the fact that sometimes people may be watching when you honor your commitment, and so it's not something you do in secret all the time. Yes, sometimes you might honor a commitment that nobody sees, but at times some people do see it. Like right now, I'm honoring something people are going to actually see. So yeah, I think that's where it differs. But anyways, I guess other synonyms that sound very similar to that could be being accountable or trustworthy. I suppose they're all somewhat the same, but yeah, that's what it means to me, and that's how I see it and how I've decided to implement it in my own life. Basically, being trustworthy, being accountable, and showing up. I think it's also very important to add that honoring your commitment is a very dynamic thing. It's not set in stone and it doesn't look the same for every single commitment you'll ever have. Might I add that it also looks different because it happens for many different things. Sometimes you're honoring a commitment to self. Sometimes you're honoring a commitment to another person, be it family, a friend, whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's you honoring a commitment to your academics or to your work, and so on and so forth. It quite literally comes in all shapes and sizes and doesn't look the same all the time. And I can make a few examples. Honoring a commitment to self looks like doing your skincare every night, right? Honoring your commitment to your academics is studying those 5 chapters that you had in your to-do list in the morning and making sure you get to the end by the end of the day. And for work, it's like sending those 5 emails you were supposed to respond to. It's literally all so different, yet so important, and eventually becomes a way of life. And so, oppositely to not honoring your commitment is obviously dishonoring your commitment and therefore not showing up. And the more you dishonor your commitments, the more space there is for distrust between you and yourself, between you and the next person, between you and your academics, between you and your work life, between you and any other thing that you just fail to show up for. And the next point I'm about to say is very true for both dishonoring commitments to yourself and dishonoring commitments to other people and the things that you have to do. So people and things. So you can apply it in context of your own situation. But I believe that if you fail to show up for yourself on multiple occasions, or if you fail to show up for other people or other things on multiple occasions, especially without reason, I think that is something worth highlighting. Especially without reason, you eventually start to trust yourself less and less each time when there is something you need to show up for, be it subconsciously or consciously. There is just a shift in things that happens when you just don't show up. But the main keywords in this entire phrase I just said is the fact that you don't show up without reason. And I think that's what tends to injure a lot of us a lot more. And so I'm going to try and elaborate on that point because it was quite lengthy, but I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say. I'm going to try and make some examples and just bring it home a bit. But what I'm trying to say here is, especially the point where I say without reason, is the idea that when you don't want to show up, you can't substantiate why you're not showing up. You can't explain it. It's just a matter of, yeah, we'll see it another day. And unfortunately, if it involves other people or other things, such as academics and whatever, the more you normalize just not showing up because, and if anyone were to ask you, like, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you send those emails? Why didn't you submit that? Why didn't you communicate this? You also wouldn't have a response for them. You yourself start to trust yourself a little less because it's just not within you. You haven't built that discipline within yourself to show up. And so with every dishonoring event that you have, you trust yourself a little less, and you also just normalize not showing up. So for you, not showing up becomes a, well, it's happened before, so what type of thing. And so what you do to yourself eventually also starts to, I'm looking for the word, reach the next person. And people start to trust you a little less. Because if I ask you for something, and I'm speaking from experience, or from my own personal thoughts and ideas. If I ask you, could you please email me that document? And you say yes, and then you don't do it. I'm not trusting you the next time to email me that document. I might as well just ask someone else, or just make the whole document for myself from scratch. Because no, because unfortunately with something like that, sometimes you've dishonored a commitment that also makes the next person dishonor their own commitment. And so it becomes a train of, or a cascade of events that just cause disaster. And so, yes, I hope this makes a little bit more sense as to why I put that point there as I did. But obviously with reason, it becomes a bit less of a train smash because we can all understand the context of the situation and kind of move on or improvise from the situation. We're all human at the end of the day. And so, yeah. However, contrary to the entire point I just said above, I have also realized from my own experiences that after honoring my commitments in various aspects over a longer period of time, eventually it started to become so much easier to show up. It's that discipline thing that it builds within you, that some of the things that you do and show up for become non-negotiables. Non-negotiable. I think I said that right. Guys, please. I've given you the context of what time it is. And it's a Friday. So English bundles have quite literally run out. But I'm trying here. Bear with me. And so in the same breath, if people start to trust you a little less if you don't show up, people will also trust you a lot more when you do show up because you become that much more trustworthy and that much more accountable. And so showing up for something like being on time, for instance. I think that's one thing a lot of us struggle with, being on time. If people can know and trust and believe that you will be on time for anything that they ask you to be on time for, it becomes so seamless for them to trust you to show up and honor that commitment. If you say I'll be there at 2:00, they know you'll be there at 2:00. But if you're the person on the other opposite side of the spectrum who says they will be there at 2:00 but arrives at 3, do you get what I'm saying? Do you get me? There's very much two sides of this coin, and there's no in between. It's either you honor it or you don't, and you very much soon become that person. You will either become the person who's always late, that if someone calls you, they'll be like, oh, no, she's always late. Don't expect her to be on time. Or you'll be the person like, oh my gosh, she's always on time. She'll even be there 5 minutes before. And see, you just got to pick a struggle. Eventually, it becomes as easy as 1, 2, 3. If you know how to be on time, you know how to be on time. And for you, that's just that. If you normalize being late, you'll always be late. And for you, it's just that. So pick a side and pick wisely. Choose your hard ASAP in most of the things, or in all the things that you do. I think it saves you a whole lot more trouble when you just know where you stand with showing up and honoring your commitments. And so with that, that's my little episode for today. Short, sweet, and to the point. And I've also just managed to, like I said in the beginning, drag myself through the mud, step on my own toes, and hopefully fix my own mistakes. And I really hope it's gotten to you a little bit. And I hope it's going to help you change a few of the ways that you show up in your various aspects of life and your various commitments. But yeah, let us do better and be better. Let's just avoid being untrustworthy, non-trustworthy. Look, I don't know the English to that. And unaccountable people and people who don't honor our commitments. Let's do a little bit better for ourselves and those around us. And yeah, with that, that's me. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I appreciate you so much, and we will check in soon. Bye, guys. And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening in today. I hope this episode was beneficial and enjoyable. Don't forget to leave a rating and a comment. Until next time, have a great and productive week. Check in soon.